Hello everyone and welcome to the October 27th edition of Sports Talk in the Burgh. I'm your host Kevin Plaucha and I'm joined tonight by one veteran panelist that you all know and two new faces you may not know. So first up, we have the only person I know that will willingly wear a Sabres jersey around campus, John Hanna. Next up, we have both a Penguins fan and a Seattle Kraken fan. I have no idea how he keeps up with both franchises, but it's fine. Evan Basista. And finally, how did someone who was both a Capitals fan and a Maryland fan end up at RMU, which is right near Pittsburgh? It's Michael Deemer. So we've got a lot planned for the show today, so let's get right into it. Getting right into the first topic, it relates to Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. The media has recently connected Tomlin's name with a couple of head coaching vacancies, specifically USC and LSU. This was after Carson Palmer brought up Tomlin's name on the Dan Patrick show relating to those jobs. Tomlin emphatically said during an interview Tuesday that he is not contemplating a move to college coaching ranks. Not now, not ever. Never say never, but never. So, why should Tomlin either stay in Pittsburgh or take one of those head coaching vacancies? Evan Basista.
I believe it all depends on how the Steelers do this year. If they miss the playoffs, it's going to signal...
It's not an if the Steelers make the playoffs. It's a when the Steelers miss the playoffs.
Never say never, as Tomlin said.
I never said never. You said never.
If they do miss the playoffs, it's going to signal a transition period. Big Ben's likely going to retire.
Yep. I do agree that Ben's gone.
The Steelers could use a shakeup.
I don't think even if they do fire Tomlin, he's not going to USC simply because
they're not going to fire him. It's not the Steeler way.
But USC is not good.
They never fire.
They had one 5-star recruit this year. They had the 64th ranked recruiting class this year. Next year, if they do have 5-star in Damani Jackson, cornerback, but they also had a 5-star D lineman decommit in Michael Williams. So this is a team. people are leaving it, and they're not going to be. They haven't had more than 8 wins since 2018.
Bring in a name like Tomlin.
I don't think he's also going to, he hasn't coached college since 2000 when he was the Cincinnati defensive backs coach. So, I know recruiting's, somewhat big in NFL, but it's not as big as it is in college. So who knows if he's going to stay that path. And also, this is a team, Mike Tomlin, as Kevin said no, but he said there isn't not a big enough booster, or not a booster with a big enough blank check. So I think Tomlin's staying in the NFL.
Right. So speaking of teams in the AFC North, after destroying Michael Deemer's Baltimore Ravens 41-17 on the road no less, are the Bengals the real deal in the AFC North? If not, who is? It's not like you have many options to choose from. John Hanna.
I'm going, you said nobody. I'm going nobody, simply because Bengals, sure, they beat Baltimore, but I still think they're too young. They have Zach Taylor. They have O-line concerns. The Ravens, they got absolutely destroyed by the Bengals. the Bengals are here. The Bengals also, Ravens, as we said, needed OT to beat the Lions.
They've got
the Detroit Lions of all teams.
They've got the young talent they need.
But I don't think, they have the young talent. But do they have that that poise that it'll last them through the season? The O-line has held strong for now, but they still don't have that full. Joe Burrow pedigree at LSU.
Okay. That's still something. You can't count it out.
But going through the rest of the AFC, Browns. Injury concerns. You have Baker hurt, Chubb hurt, Hunt hurt, and the Steelers just no. Steelers are no.
The Ravens and Bengals, I think, are.
The Browns are the Browns.
Of course, you would say the Ravens are a.
Of course you would.
The Ravens, that got absolutely killed, and as I said, needed OT.
We still have very much injury concerns as well.
What position do you play for the Ravens? What position?
The Ravens can't say consistent week
running
to week.
Running back has been down to the fourth string.
Deemer, tell me what Ravens team I'm going to see next week. Is it going to be the team that came back on Monday night against the Colts?
Or is it going to be the team that got
that's happened twice. They beat the good Chiefs back then, and they also beat the Colts.
The good Chiefs. I don't even know if the Chiefs you can consider
they seem to be good then.
Michael Deemer, as you being the Ravens fan, I'm kind of surprised you didn't pick the Ravens, just saying. Anyways, sticking with the NFL but switching divisions to the NFC South, Tom Brady hit a career milestone as he was the first NFL quarterback to reach the 600 career passing touchdown mark. You would think Brady would want the ball after reaching such a fantastic milestone, but at first, he didn't get it. Mike Evans had no idea what was happening, so he just gave the ball away to a fan, Brian Kennedy, who was wearing an Evans jersey. Brady got the ball back, but not after a bunch of negotiations with Kennedy. He ended up getting items like a Tom Brady signed helmet and even a Bitcoin. So I have to ask, guys, was the Tom Brady football trade-off a fair negotiation? If not, what more should the fan have got? Michael Deemer.
I mean, I think so. I mean, like, I feel like he wasn't really in the right to even get the ball in the first place. It's just a very unfortunate situation for the fan and Evans to even give the ball to the fan in the first place.
I mean, I don't think it's an unfortunate situation. It's just a lapse of judgment by Mike Evans. And
that's what I mean. I'm even surprised that he even got something more in return. All he got was what, a signed jersey, and then a bunch of notifications.
I would argue they were actually a bit too fair. I think they overpaid a bit.
I think it was, I didn't think either.
The Bitcoin and the season tickets, that's a bit of a stretch.
The ball is worth $500,000.
I would
supposedly worth. But I think
he
didn't go to the game looking for anything. It was just
it was
he went for a fun time.
Moment.
Yeah, he got the ball, which would have been good if he kept. But I mean, he's going to what? What's
season
that?
Tickets for 2 years.
Yeah,
I think it was.
24 straight games, pretty much, or not 24. 16
over
games.
20,
yeah, 16 games, and considering that he could get another ball. Who knows? So
he could. I think if you just given a signed ball and jersey from both players, that would have cut it.
And the Bitcoin as well. I mean,
you never really know how much that is.
I don't know about the Bitcoin.
The thing that stinks though is he asked for a round of golf with Tom Brady, and that would have pushed it. That would have been really cool because that nice personal connection.
Definitely.
Final NFL question for now. With all the rumors swirling around certain players like Deshaun Watson and Tua Tagovailoa and more, who is a player that will be on the move as the NFL trade deadline approaches? Evan Basista.
I'm going to go with Allen Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
He's in Chicago now, actually.
Yep.
Well, Chicago still. They need something around Justin Fields. They don't have a whole lot outside.
So they're trading something around Justin Fields for something that isn't around Justin Fields.
Exactly.
They're still going through a transition. Bring in more picks, get in more young talent.
What is Allen Robinson going to get?
Has done wonders for the Bears.
Also, who's trading for Xavier Howard? He has 3 years left at a $12 million plus cap hit. No contender has that cap room.
The Miami Dolphins stink. They need to get rid of him.
They need to get rid of him. Who's going to take him on that cap hit?
You never know. They can also. Anybody can make any sort of move to Deshaun Watson.
Okay. Deshaun Watson is not getting traded. Sure, there might be a whole trade in place right now with Miami, but those legal barriers are going to be so much to cross that I don't think he's getting traded before the deadline.
Switching gears to the MLB, the World Series started last night, and the Atlanta Braves took Game 1 by a score of 6-2, taking a 1-0 lead in the series. Baseball fans in general seem to be pretty happy that the Astros lost. So do you guys think the Astros deserve the heat they are getting in the World Series this year, even after their 2017 antics? John Hanna.
Well, it's 2017. It's been 4 years, guys. Can we please?
They are cheaters.
They still have pieces.
They still have pieces from 2017. Even their top stars.
Okay. And they're still playing good without cheating.
But they still are cheaters. It's not like you're going to take that away. Sure, they're still a good team. They still had to cheat to win the World Series. They didn't need to do that in the first place. That's why everyone's still mad about it.
Well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised a Ravens fan is, holding grudges all these years later. But I know.
What the fuck?
Anyway.
But, I mean, the only team I like to make fun of consistently is Toronto, because they haven't made the first or second round, since 2006. But that's because it keeps happening every single round. While the Astros, they're not cheating every year. So I think it's time to live and let live. The Astros, just come on. It's been 4 years. If I'll be happy if they get swept because I don't like the Astros in general. But it's time to just let the Astros be the Astros and stop messing around with this cheating nonsense.
The only time they won the World Series is when they did cheat.
He's right.
With a copious amount of talent making up both rosters, whether it's hitting, where you have the likes of Altuve, Correa, and Yordan Alvarez, or Freddie Freeman, Eddie Rosario, and Austin Riley. You got even Ian Anderson and Max Fried for the Braves pitching staff, or Framber Valdez and Zach Greinke for the Astros. Who's your player to watch for the World Series? Evan Basista.
I'm going to go with Dansby Swanson of the Atlanta Braves. You need good fielding for when the ball isn't going over the fence for a home run. And Swanson is a gem at shortstop. I think his defensive plays are going to play a key part in the series.
Well, my player to watch, you don't even need the defensive plays. I'm going with Will Smith, but really it's the left-handed pitching trio of Will Smith, Tyler Matzek, and A.J. Minter. The three southpaws this year have allowed just 15 hits, none of them home runs in 29 2/3 inning. Smith, 2-0 record, 0 runs around, .75 whip, 4 saves. And, I just think that considering the Astros have these really good left-hander regulars in Yordan Alvarez, Michael Brantley, and Kyle Tucker, I think, Smith, Matzik, and Minter are going to be crucial in stopping this potent Astros offense.
As you said, Michael Brantley on the Astros, his hitting has been absolutely incredible. He hit 3 hits last night, even despite the loss. He was the biggest part of the Astros limited hitting last night. I think he'll only be up from here also.
Because of that pitching staff.
Yeah, pitching staff.
And this defense of Danby Swanson.
And if you're without Alvarez, Brantley, and Tucker, those are 3 key attributes. And Will Smith, Matzik, and Minter are going to do a great job at limiting the effect that they have.
So we're actually going to go back to the NFL here. I know a lot of maintenance had to be done and last-minute decisions had to be made on all of my fantasy teams last weekend, especially with players like Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler both on byes. So with a chance for some underused talent to get an opportunity, who is your fantasy player of the week? Michael Deemer.
I'm going to say A.J. Brown. A lot of people have benched him, including me, because of how slow he started the year. But after last week, I had to start him due to many people having a bye, and he absolutely went off. He had 27.3 fantasy points on ESPN. And if he continues to go up from here and doesn't struggle like he did in the previous year, I could see people actually starting him again.
He wasn't even the best wide receiver.
Yeah, the best wide receiver was Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, but
he had 156 yards, 2 touchdowns, and in my league, 37.6 fantasy points.
I'm going with someone who had 3.7 points less, but Alvin Kamara, simply because of the situation. He played Monday night. He was the only player to really do anything. So if you had Kamara in your lineup and you were down by 30 points, he had 33.9, 20 rushes, 51 yards, but it was really in the passing game in that really rainy, disgusting game.
If you had Cooper Kupp, you probably didn't need to worry about Monday night.
You probably didn't, but you also could have, if you were down by less than 33 points. If you had Kupp and I had Kamara and you were winning by 30, I still would have won.
That's a fair point.
So it's actually time for a brand new segment here on Sports Talk in the Burgh. It's the tweet of the week. This one comes to you from @TalkPirates on Twitter, and it reads, quote, "I want Kenny Pickett in a Steelers uniform tomorrow," end quote. Obviously, as a Pitt fan, this makes me really happy. But guys, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first off, it's kind of impossible to happen because of all the NFL draft regulations and all that nonsense. Right. But I think, in the grand scheme of things, with Kenny Pickett being a Steelers quarterback, I like it because Steelers O-line is weak right now. Pickett has been successful against the pass rush. Admittedly, it's the ACC pass rush, but he's been blitzed 36.8% of the time and has completed 55 of 85, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions for 260 yards in 7 games when under pressure. So I think, he'll thrive in that Matt Canada offense where you really want to get the ball out quickly. The only question I have about Kenny Pickett is he a one-hit wonder? Because last 2 years, 13 touchdowns and 9 picks.
He's built up that momentum to get to this point.
But
though.
He's built up the momentum. But who knows how long that momentum will last? So that's the only thing that I really have a question about. I have no doubts that Kenny Pickett's going to be a good NFL quarterback. The only question is, how good is he? He's projected around.
We've seen hometown success stories with James Conner coming from Pitt to the Steelers. So, as I said before, the Steelers, they're kind of nearing a little transition phase.
As long as he's not Dan Marino, someone who is good, then you completely
very
pass
much
up
a wild
on.
card. Yes.
We'll talk more about this in a little bit, but I actually think Kenny Pickett's the real deal. But more on that later. So we already talked about fantasy players of the week. Kind of switching gears from that, who's your pro athlete of the week? It doesn't have to be from the NFL. John Hanna.
Well, you said not from the NHL or NFL. I'm going to go with a sport we haven't even talked about yet. I'm going NHL. Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders. 2-0-1 record, only allowed 2 goals on 100 shots against over the past week, 2 shutouts, and he's the first goaltender in New York Islanders history to record shutouts in consecutive road games, playing at Arizona on Saturday and at Vegas on Sunday.
But he played Arizona.
Okay,
so
in back-to-back games in Arizona. That's still. Have you ever played goalie?
I have not, but I feel like I might do a decent job against that Arizona team. You look, they're tanking.
They may be tanking, but they still are an NHL team. They have Louis Eriksson, who's on. They have
Canucks legend.
Canucks legend. Yeah, Louis Eriksson is not the best pick I could have chosen.
I'm going to switch over to the NFL. Jamar Chase against the Ravens had himself a career day. He's obviously now the Rookie of the Year after that performance. I mean, there's Jamar Chase.
How does it feel as a Ravens fan to watch Jamar Chase light up that secondary?
Yeah, we cannot take those save our life, or they cannot take those save our life.
What position do you play?
I think he's looking for that tryout, John. He's looking for that PTO in the Ravens at this point. Yeah. Bringing it back to hockey really quick, I'm going to have to say Andrew Mangiapane of the Flames. 6 goals in 4 games this past week, 7-6 to start of a breakout year.
When we come back, we'll have another new segment and some RMU football talk right here on Sports Talk in the Burgh.
It's been difficult because I hadn't been able to see my grandchildren.
I can't wait to get back to field trips with my school.
Not having to think about putting on a mask.
I really can't wait to get back to life, really.
I miss all my friends. I miss taking pictures in school.
An expression on someone's face when you do something nice for them.
COVID-19 vaccines are available, and they're the first step to safely getting back to things we miss most. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccines.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 30 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people.
It's time to make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccines. The dangerous new Delta variant is more than twice as contagious as the original virus and can affect anyone. Right now, 9 out of 10 hospitalizations and deaths from COVID are among unvaccinated people. Getting vaccinated might save your life, and there's now an option that's fully approved by the FDA. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear, because for years he's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
But there's a lot more to say, like if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. So another new segment we have tonight, it's the Versus segment. For this segment, we'll be facing off against someone else on the show and debating a certain topic. I'll actually be getting some say during this segment, which is nice. First up, we have myself versus John Hanna, and the topic of discussion is to pick a Heisman candidate and why. John Hanna, go ahead.
I'm going with Matt Corral out of Ole Miss. I think, he's just been great this year. 67.6 completion percentage, 1,913 yards, 15 touchdowns, only 1 interception. So I think, Matt Corral's really been the real deal for Ole Miss and the reason why they're number 10 ranked right now.
So I do respect that pick because he has to go up against these stout SEC defenses. But my obvious choice is Kenny Pickett of the Pittsburgh Panthers.
Way to be biased.
No, he's the 5th-year senior. He came back for a reason, and he's proving it.
Okay, you mentioned that Matt Corral played, the stout SEC defenses. What defense exactly has Kenny Pickett played?
Clemson.
Okay.
And that's honestly about it. And I know.
Okay.
I know
so you say Clemson is not. They've also played New Hampshire, Western Michigan, UMass.
Look,
those are not good defenses.
Either way, though, he has, 23 passing touchdowns. It's tied for 4th in the nation. He's only thrown 1 interception, tied for 2nd lowest in the nation. I think he should win the Heisman.
But you're only looking at the passing yards.
See,
Go ahead, Evan.
I have to back up Kevin here. I also think Kenny Pickett is a good choice. No one really.
That's great people.
Hey, tell me at the start of the year if you would have expected Pitt to be this good. But he has led them to that 6-1 record. Granted, the
because
loss,
Clemson's bad.
The loss
Pitt
was
to
a weaker team in Western Michigan. But Kenny Pickett had 6 touchdowns in that loss, so you can't put that on him. He's got over 2,200 yards passing. He's led the way. MVP of the Pitt team easily.
I'm gonna go with an actual rated team instead of an overrated team.
Pitt is ranked.
Yeah, so is Alabama. Bryce Young, the quarterback at Alabama, except for that one loss against Texas A&M, he's had 63% completion percentage in every game. He's had a 70.1 completion percentage the entire year. Only 3 interceptions with 26 touchdowns.
Pickett's only thrown 1 to the 23 passing touchdowns. He's got better ball control.
No,
Sticking with college football, James Franklin recently changed his agents, according to the media. Franklin changed agents from Trace Armstrong of Athletes First to Jimmy Sexton of the Creative Artists Agency. Franklin didn't provide many details, but we do know that Sexton is regarded as one of the more powerful agents in college football. He represents Alabama's Nick Saban, Georgia's Kirby Smart, and Florida's Dan Mullen, among others. With all of that happening, plus the record 9 overtime loss to Illinois this past weekend, what is the current state of Penn State football? Michael Deemer.
I'm going to say this is the beginning of the end of the James Franklin era. After that agent switch, I don't think he actually wants to stay, and I don't think Penn State and State College don't want him to stay either.
You mean the agent change that actually happened in the summer and is just now being reported, correct?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like, they weren't going to actually end his tenure then. I think that now that he's struggling, they have 3 losses in a row. Iowa's loss is now not as strong as it was before. But
I think, that Illinois game was stupid. I mean, no one could catch in that game, and you really can't blame James Franklin. I mean, Sean Clifford got hurt. So the past 2 games against Iowa and Illinois, you really can't blame the loss because they weren't out their starting quarterback.
They didn't do well. They didn't do well last year either.
His focus isn't where it needs to be.
I do agree with that
in
because
the post-game conference,
he kept
said
saying
the focus
Illinois.
is on Illinois. They play Ohio State next week.
So I do agree that he's a bit discombobulated, but I think James Franklin's going to stay at Penn State. I just think that he's
after next year, though. You think he's
I don't believe so.
I mean, I think if they were to do it, it's this year. His buyout's $4 million this year, but I think he's in for a couple more years.
So Penn State football is definitely important, but not as important as RMU Colonials football. What does RMU football have to do in order to win against Hampton Saturday afternoon after 2 straight losses on the road? John Hanna.
They have to get going early. I mean, RMU has scored first in both their wins against Howard and Charleston Southern. And in their 3 losses, their opponent has scored first. They were down 21-0 to Gardner-Webb before halftime. That was 28-7 at halftime. The last game they won without scoring first was November 23rd in 2019 against Sacred Heart.
That's why they have to. The key with that Gardner-Webb game was the mental mistakes and the turnovers that they had. 2 of those first 3 scores by Gardner-Webb came as a direct result of a Robert Morris turnover. They had 5 in the game. They also need to stay disciplined as the first play from scrimmage resulted in a large defensive pass interference against RMU. If they can just
get rid of that mind, they have to get rid of that mindset. So pretend like the last 2 games have never happened and just start off with a clean slate.
You have to learn from your mistakes. If you just completely forget, then you're not going to learn from the mistakes. You're not going to learn to stay disciplined and watch those turnovers.
Keep it in the back of your minds, but not.
Yeah, it's not going to be the forefront, but they're going to have to keep remembering what they did wrong in order to correct those mistakes.
Saturday.
Final question for the 3 of you before we head to break. Who is your college athlete of the week? Evan Basista.
I'm going to go with Sam Hartman, the Wake Forest quarterback. Threw for over 450 yards and 5 touchdowns in their win against Army, in which they put up 70 points.
The great defense that Army was. I'm going with a team that actually played somebody good. Michael Joyelle, defenseman from Western Michigan.
Who?
You say who? Jameson Williams wasn't even the best wide receiver. He had 6 receptions, 123 yards, no touchdowns.
He had no idea who this college hockey player is,
okay,
but he also had
name another college hockey player. Exactly, you don't know college hockey. Michael Joyelle, 4 assists, 3 primary, 7 block shots, 4 shots on goal. He also played on a penalty kill unit that finished the weekend 10 of 11 against the rival number 1 ranked Michigan, might I add. He helped the power play go 3 for 9 with assists on all 3 goals. Michael Joyelle for Western Michigan is
John, you bring up the rankings. Wake Forest is ranked 13th, 7-0.
Okay, and what's Army ranked?
You say RMU?
Army.
Oh, Army.
The team they
are
played.
Also not ranked.
When we come back, the guys will give their final takes right here on Sports Talk in the Burgh.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? Well, now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Jason, let's go see your room.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Talk in the Burgh. It's now time for the guys to give their final takes. John Hanna, you're up.
Well, on Tuesday afternoon, the Chicago Blackhawks announced the findings of the investigation into the team's handling of Brad Aldridge, the former video coach who sexually assaulted 2 men at Miami of Ohio in fall 2012. Following this investigation, current general manager and president Stan Bowman stepped down, while Chicago's CEO Danny Wirtz called the report, quote, disturbing and difficult to read, end quote. Now, I call upon the Florida Panthers and Winnipeg Jets. Both Joel Quenneville and Kevin Cheveldayoff are in prominent leadership positions at their organizations. Quenneville is the coach of the now 6-0 Panthers, and Cheveldayoff is the GM in Winnipeg. When the reports first broke, both Quenneville and Cheveldayoff stated they didn't know anything about this, which the investigation clearly disproved. Current NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman said, quote, I will reserve judgment on next steps, if any, with them, end quote. So to you, Gary, as well as the Jets and Panthers organizations, I say this. By this time next week, both Cheveldayoff and Quenneville, as well as anyone who is associated with these 2012 Blackhawks teams and was in the named report, should face serious punishment from the league, if not banishment from it.
With the recent announcement of Tampa Bay Lightning forward Nikita Kucherov expected to be missing 8 to 10 weeks while on long-term injured reserve, it reminded me once again of the controversy surrounding LTIR. Tampa won their second of back-to-back cups while having a roster greatly exceeding the salary cap. Kucherov missed all of that regular season with an injury, only to come back right in time for the playoffs, where he showed why he's a top 10 player in the league. His placement on LTIR allowed the Lightning to bring in more depth during the regular season via trades. And this type of thing is not exclusive to the Lightning, however. We've seen plenty of examples where teams will trade players who are clearly unable to play, whether the career is definitively over or just for that season, in order to gain that glorious cap space. Pronger to Phoenix in 2013, Datsuk also to Phoenix in 2016, Seabrook to Tampa this past summer, Riley Nash to Toronto in 2020, although his was just for the remainder of that regular season. This goes against the spirit of the game, and the league needs to put new rules in place to prevent teams from exploiting this loophole time and time again.
Now with the NHL in full swing, it's that time of the year again. That's right, you're seeing a lot of careers beginning, and that means rookies are getting their first career goals. A bunch of players have scored their first tally already in the National Hockey League. Cole Sillinger of the Blue Jackets, Mason McTavish of the Ducks, and Hendrix Lapierre of the Capitals, who are just to name a few to go into the record books after counting their games on just the palm of their hand. More amazingly, Lucas Raymond of the Red Wings put his exclamation point onto his NHL career already, scoring a hat trick in his young NHL career. All these guys are about our ages, and this topic gets flown under the radar, just like, finally, this prospect just scored, and move on. These kids are 18 years old. They've been training for this dream ever since birth, and now her hard work has finally paid off. Congratulations, boys. Best of luck into your career.
All right, so you mentioned that you wanted the rules changed. Might I remind you that the Tampa Bay Lightning were the one that brought up this rule change in 2016 when, before they even thought about circumventing the cap.
Times change and situations change.
And, the fact that it hasn't been done, I do agree, needs to be addressed. Yes. But, Tampa was the one that first wanted it done, and guess what? They're the ones benefiting right now.
That's why
the rest of the NHL is reaping what they sow.
That's why they need the league to step in. If the team that voted against it is going to exploit it. That shows that the teams were
Well,
were fine
I'm
with
going to
it
have to
before.
cut you off there because we're almost out of time. For Michael Deemer, Kevin Plaucha, Evan Basista, myself, everyone upstairs and downstairs, this has been Sports Talk in the Burgh. We'll see you next week.